Next up, we're not here to fight the war, we're here to end it.
That's right, it's time for a special Rick and Rick review of the movie Captain Marvel.
With all the fights, all the fury, and all the scene-stealing Flerkens.
Plus a super-sized helping of Krees, Skrulls, hidden Marvel Easter eggs, and more.
And it all starts right here, right now.
On the one show where everybody's name is Rick.
And everybody rules the world.
Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day, right?
Pretty awesome. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are doing the show on St. Patrick's Day today, and I'm Rick Matheson. And as always, I am joined by my good pal, Rick Wooten. How are you doing, Rick Wooten?
I'm doing great, man.
Good. Well, I have to say, all these years, I never put two and two together about how close your birthday is to St. Patrick's Day. I never put together the slightly reddish hair, the light, wrinkle-free skin, the green clover hat, and the elf shoes.
The beer in my hand.
And shenanigans. We are recording this on St. Patty's Day, and in your honor, there is this new Saturday morning IPA. It's a new beer from this Virginia-based brewing company called Smart Mouth. They've come out with this beer that's brewed with Lucky Charms-inspired marshmallows. Now, unfortunately, it's only available in Virginia. But since this is an audio show, I'm going to give you some theater of the mind today so that you can imagine what it's like to enjoy Lucky Charms-inspired beer, the breakfast of leprechauns. So I have, in your honor, brought a Guinness, and I have a box of Lucky Charms-inspired Lucky Charms. So you just have to imagine the scene. So make sure you can hear this. I'll put it up toward the mic, but I'm going to open up the box of Lucky Charms-inspired Lucky Charms. I'll pour some of it into this handy bowl I have right here. And I'll take out this bottle of Guinness. And now I am going to proceed to douse the Lucky Charms, inspired Lucky Charms, with this Guinness. Put it up here. So while that's brewing or marinating, in your honor, I thought I'd do a dramatic reading of the Lucky Charms jingle, ASMR style. So while that's getting ready, here we go. Oh, frosted Lucky Charms, hearts, stars, and horseshoes, clovers, and blue moon, hourglasses, rainbows, and tasty red balloons. Lucky Charms, frosty Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. All right, I think our beer of charms is done here. The breakfast of leprechauns, the beer that eats like a meal. I'm going to give it a shot here. See what it tastes like. It really does not look or smell appetizing at all.
It doesn't sound appetizing either.
It's kind of brown. Okay, here we go. Mmm. It tastes like feet.
I was going to say, I can't imagine that's a good taste.
It's magically disgusting. Take one more bite here.
Because one wasn't enough.
Yeah. Yuck. Oh, what'd the guy say in that movie? Kelly Clarkson. Man. Okay, my apologies to Smart Mouth Beer. We're sure your Saturday morning IPA is awesome. This little concoction of ours is not. So, but it was in your honor.
You're a brave man. You're a brave man, Rick.
Closest thing we could do to our own Saturday. This is our St. Patty's Day IPA. Oh, I gotta have some water. Hold on.
I think you would have done better with corned beef and cabbage with the Guinness as opposed to the Lucky Charms.
Okay, so folks, thanks for joining us. We're actually inserting this episode between episode 1 and episode 2 of our annual predictions episode. So last episode, we did our prediction scorecard, so you could hear how well we did in our marketing predictions for 2018. Now, 1 year later, what we got right and where we went horribly wrong. And the next episode, you can hear about our predictions for the rest of 2019. But first, we are going to do our official review of Captain Marvel. And
That's right.
Plus, we've got loaded questions, Captain Marvel edition as well. So it's all going to start right after we return from this short break. So stay tuned.
Is the short break so you can run to the bathroom really quick?
Oh, hey, Rick and Rick Nation, don't forget to check out our website at rickandrick.com. It's double the Rick in just one click at rickandrick.com. And we're back. Welcome, Rick and Rick Nation. You are just in time for the official Rick and Rick review of Marvel's new blockbuster hit, Captain Marvel. So you just saw it today. I didn't check the numbers today. I know it had just an enormous opening weekend. I saw it the Thursday, that preview night before its official opening. It's been, 2 weeks now? I haven't seen the latest numbers, but huge the first week. Did you have a big crowd when you went today?
Yeah, the theater was completely booked, and I went to it. I think it was a 10:30 show in the morning, thinking that it wouldn't be bad, and it was totally sold out. So
Wow.
I think the movie's performing great. I think that they have a blockbuster on their hands here.
Yeah. Pardon the pun there, since she falls through one.
I have to tell you, every time I talk about Captain Marvel, my DC comic fans come out and they love to
Hmm.
point out that Captain Marvel was not first in the Marvel universe. The DC had it first, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's like the easy hit. It turns out that that's actually not true, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So Captain Marvel was actually first introduced by a company called Fawcett Comics
Yeah.
in Whiz Comics #2 in
That is true.
1940.
That is true.
That's right. And so, DC had nothing to do with that. In fact, DC, you know, because of the success of that first Captain Marvel comic, ended up suing them for a number of years, like 20 years, that they went back and forth suing them, lost in court a couple of times, and that sort of thing, because Captain Marvel ended up outselling Superman, right? And there was a lot of similarity between the two, and so there was a big thing about that. And eventually, first they licensed it. DC licensed the Captain Marvel and Friends. I guess there was a whole bunch of them, like
Yep.
Kid Marvel and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then eventually bought out the rights to all of that. But unfortunately, they missed the boat because that didn't happen until I think 72, or maybe 72 is when they relaunched Captain Marvel Shazam. But by then, Marvel had started publishing a Captain Marvel comic, and with a totally different storyline. It's interesting how different. There's some similarities, but at the same time, kind of different. And then the rest is history. So on the Marvel side, there have been a bunch of different Captain Marvels. The first one was Mar-Vell. The second one was Monica. Was it Rambeau? And that was in 1982. Then there was Janice Vale, which was in 1993. Phyla Vale, which was in 2004, which is I think a daughter, and I don't know how to pronounce this one, Kanair or whatever it was, in 2007, and then Novar in 2000, and then finally Carol Danvers in 2012. But that's actually not the full story. Originally, Carol Danvers actually goes all the way back to 1977, but at that time, with the way they wrote the story, Captain Marvel, the Marvel version of Captain Marvel, had a partner, and that partner was Miss Marvel. And so Carol Danvers originally started in 1977 as Miss Marvel, and then going back all the way up to 2012, after Mar-Vell passed away, she decided to take that name in honor of him, and that's when in 2012 she changed her name to Captain Marvel, and that's
Wow.
where the character has been since then. It's just a fascinating story at how many iterations and variations they've had on this.
So this movie, Captain Marvel, it's set in 1995 and stars Brie Larson as an extraterrestrial Kree warrior named, at least ostensibly, Veers, who finds herself caught in the middle of an intergalactic battle between the Kree and the Skrulls. The Kree are generally humanoid. They look like human beings, and the Skrull, they kind of have green faces like the Goblin and from Spider-Man, but they can shapeshift. They can literally turn into another person. And in this story, this Veers character has been struck by amnesia, and she possesses these amazing powers gained when she absorbed this kind of energy blast. And that is the point where she doesn't remember her life before whatever that energy blast was. She works to take control of her powers, working with her mentor, I'm going to say Jan Rog, played by Jude Law. And then in addition to this sort of dampener placed on her neck, she gets to hear Jan Rog chide her not to get so emotional, because no women ever tires of hearing that. And when she can't control herself, she works with the Kree Supreme Intelligence, which is this AI-based entity who manifests itself as Annette Bening. And during this mission, she goes to, I don't know, she's chasing the Skrulls or something, and she goes to Earth, but she keeps having reoccurring memories of another life on Earth as U.S. Air Force pilot Carol Danvers. So she starts off and is in pursuit of this Skrull soldier who is on the loose. Along the way, with the help of a much younger, much nerdier Nick Fury, Fury, Captain Marvel tries to uncover the secrets of her actual past while harnessing her special superpowers to end the war with what she thought were the evil Skrulls. Along the way, she, and rather Nick Fury, adopts a stray cat called Goose, who is a whole lot more than it seems. So great adventure, and in the climax of the film, she pulls the dampener off, lets her powers loose, and she kicks some serious ass. I thought it was a really fun movie.
I really, really like the movie. We've had several movies that have come out recently that have been trying to address socio-political things that are going on, and some of them have done a better job at integrating that message into, a real movie versus just trying to make the statement. And I'd say this one did the best. I say of the ones we watched recently, this is probably one of my favorite superhero movies. Might even have enjoyed it a little bit more than Wonder Woman, which was my favorite for a bit. It's an interesting movie. Somebody pointed this out online recently, that this is actually in the MCU the first female kind of solo movie, which I hadn't realized, but thinking back, that's absolutely true. But I thought they did a fantastic job. The storytelling was great. It had a good pace to it, kept me interested. Lots of things that, I knew something was up with the cat, but I didn't know exactly what was up with the cat until the tentacles came out of the face. So it was, it really kept me on the edge of my seat, and I had an absolute blast.
Lots of action. I love that opening. So normally you see the Marvel production logo come up on screen. It shows the Marvel heroes and whatnot. And this time out, they replaced the heroes with Stan Lee, followed by a simple "thank you, Stan." And the audience that I was watching with, that got them completely primed for the movie. There's tons of 90s jokes. There's a point where Carol is taking on the bad guys, and it's set to "No Doubt's Just a Girl," and there are other 90s era songs. So it is fun. It is fast paced. I can see why you would like it better than Wonder Woman. I don't think I did, but it is a much more action packed movie. There were a couple things that didn't work for me, and I think this is why I didn't like it as much as Wonder Woman, is I had a hard time actually caring about Danvers. She wasn't really seeking the truth about who she was. She just kind of stumbles upon it. She was content with where, her life and whatever. It was only on accident that she started to realize, wait, things aren't what I thought they were. And we have these little tiny glimpses of her growing up, just, these flashes. We don't actually have scenes with Carol growing up like we do with Diana in Wonder Woman, where we know really young Diana. We know teenage Diana. And so by the time she's an adult, we've already kind of emotionally invested in the character a little bit. Whereas here we didn't get that beyond some visual cues that I felt were a little on the nose. It felt a little didactic to me. The things where she has flashes of playing baseball, or she's driving go-karts, she's going into the military. And each of these instances or flashes, she's somehow knocked down, as anyone is, but core to the character as she gets up and just tries again harder. It is super inspirational, and that cathartic moment when we see all those flashes come together as she sort of sets her powers free. But, since we didn't have that time with her, I couldn't quite get as invested in the character in quite the way that in Wonder Woman.
How much do you think that is because you grew up reading the comic books and had a better backstory than you did with Miss Marvel?
Yeah, fair point. I think that, I did grow up with the DC characters, and so I knew even beyond what they had in those early scenes to connect with, and I didn't hear. I'm just saying, from a moviegoer who is not familiar with this particular material, I wished that they had scenes and more dialogue with the younger version of Carol Danvers along the way. I think it could have only benefited from that. In fact, the only person who really brought heart or the feels to the movie was really that best friend, Maria Rambo, was it? She brought so much heart. But then Samuel L. Jackson, it was a younger, nerdier, and nicer version of him. But for whatever reason, I was having a hard time buying it. Partly because we've spent so much time with Nick from 2012 through 2019, and he's a very different person. But then again, we're all very different than we were in 1995. So it was smart to play him more naive, and it was part of the humor of this. But there were parts of it, especially when he first meets Goose, where I was like, really? Nick Fury doing that? Yeah, okay. So there were just little.
It did seem a little out of character. I had the same reaction. There was three things that I picked up on, and I think you've covered almost all of them. One was I felt like there was missing pieces of the Carol Danvers story, because I believe it or not, I'm not that familiar with Captain Marvel outside of doing the research and watching the movie. I have one or two Miss Marvel comics, and literally that's it.
Okay.
So I felt like a little bit of the backstory was missing, and I was a little bothered by how flat she played the character, but I figured that was to tie in with the fact that the Kree had been, training her to suppress her emotion the whole time.
Right.
But I was hoping that we would have that breakthrough revelation that I think that you were looking for as well, that we didn't quite see. And then some of the special effects I thought were a little hokey. I mean, the cat, I think every scene with the cat was CG, and it was just a little, it just looked like CG. And then, even seeing Coulson and Nick Fury and the younger stage looked a little like, it had been kind of over photoshopped a little bit. So I was a little disappointed in that. But, I was still able to suspend disbelief and really enjoy the movie, even with a few of these smaller details.
Great. Well, we have to go to our second break here. When we come back, we've got loaded questions, the Captain Marvel edition. So stay tuned. All right, true believers, Rick and Rick rule the world here. Rick Matheson with Rick Wooten, and it is time to play Loaded Questions, the part of the show where we pose questions about what's happening in the worlds of marketing, media, tech, and pop culture. But this instance, it's all pop culture and all about this month's big superhero movie, Captain Marvel. Rick's going to play in studio, and you can play at home. So, Rick Wooten, are you ready for some loaded questions?
Let's see how I do. I'm ready.
All right. Now, some of this is backstory. Some of this is, production stuff. So we'll see here. In Captain Marvel, 90s era test pilot Carol Danvers gets her superpowers after an accident piloting an experimental aircraft designed by Dr. Wendy Lawson, played by Annette Bening, who also doubles as 2019 era Carol's manifestation of the Kree's AI-based supreme intelligence. But in the comics, Wendy Larson was which of these? A, secretly a Kree scientist named Marvel. B, secretly a Skrull scientist known as Science Guy. C, a human rights advocate named Sidney Allen Wade. D, a human scientist named Walter Lawson. Or E, a human scientist named Richard Dawson. In the comics, Wendy Larson was actually which of these?
She was a Kree scientist.
That was what she was in the movie. The answer is actually D. She was actually a male, a human scientist named Walter Lawson. So according to Ranker.com, the comic book version of Wendy Lawson was a scientist named Walter Lawson. So they switched the gender there for that character. Question number 2. In the comic books, Carol's scene-stealing cat / Flerken is named which of the following? A, Bobo the bongo playing octopus. B, Merkel. C, Alf. D, Chewie. Or E, Boner. Which of these was the cat's real name in the comic books?
Chewie.
You are correct. The answer is D, Chewie.
I really do wish it was Bongo the drum playing octopus.
So according again to Ranker.com, comic book Carol has a pet cat named Chewie that turns out to be a Flerken with the ability to store items inside a pocket dimension inside its mouth. So this thing had those tentacles, as Rick Wooten was talking about, that should grab people or whatever, anything, and pull it in to his maw, and they would be disappeared into this pocket dimension. Topo was the bongo playing octopus seen in Aquaman. Merkel was a character from 1990s era sitcom Family Matters. Alf was an alien living with a family in an eponymous 90s sitcom. And Richard Boner Staboni was the best friend of Kirk Cameron's Mike Seaver in the 80s 90s sitcom Growing Pains. Question number 3. Captain Marvel co-stars Samuel L. Jackson as a younger 1990s era Nick Fury. That makes this movie which of the following? A, Nick Fury's 9th appearance in the MCU. B, an alternate universe. I guess because in the first Iron Man we learned that Nick Fury lost his eye due to misplaced trust during a mission gone awry in the year 2004. C, Nick Fury's 11th appearance in the MCU. Or D, Nick Fury's 8th appearance in the MCU. What does the fact that Samuel L. Jackson is in this movie make this movie?
I have no idea. I thought he was in every one of them, so I would have guessed a much higher number. So I guess by elimination, I'm going to have to take the answer, I think it was B, where you talked about that this wasn't how he reported that he lost his eye, so it's a change.
Unfortunately, no. So the answer is not B. I just made that one up. So A, according to MarvelCinematicUniverse.fandom.com, Captain Marvel marks the 9th appearance of Sam Jackson's Nick Fury, beginning with Iron Man in 2008. Question number 4. As shown in this most recent MCU movie, the source of Captain Marvel's superpowers is which of the following? A, the wizard Shazam. B, energy from the Power Stone first seen in Avengers Infinity War. C, energy from the Tesseract first seen in Captain America the First Avenger. Or D, energy from the dying star orbiting Nidavellir, I'm saying that wrong, I'm sure, where Eitri, saying that wrong, forged Thor's Stormbreaker axe, first seen in Avengers Infinity War. Which of these is the source of Captain Marvel's superpowers?
I didn't hear you say anything about the generator, right? So it was actually from the explosion of the engine.
You are correct, but that engine was being fueled by one of these things: the wizard Shazam, or the Power Stone, first seen in Avengers Infinity War, or the Tesseract, or whatever, the dying star orbiting Nidavellir.
Well, we see the Tesseract cube in the show, but I don't think that was actually how it was powered. I mean, but if that's what it says, that's what it is.
You are correct. Answer is C. The energy wave Carol absorbed from the Tesseract, first seen in Captain America the First Avenger. Okay, final question. Which of the following is not a true statement about this movie? A. Goose is played by 4 different cat actors named Reggie, Rizzo, Gonzo, and Archie. B. Brie Larson is allergic to cats, so her scenes involving Goose were filmed with a puppet or computer-generated VFX. C. The name Captain Marvel is only used twice in the entire movie. Or D. When Brie Larson's casting was announced at Comic-Con, CNN ran the headline, "Shazam! Brie Larson is Captain Marvel," apparently not realizing that those are 2 different things. Which of those is not a true statement?
I have no idea. They all sound outlandish and plausible. Which one is it?
It is C. According to IMDb, all of these statements are true, except C, because the name Captain Marvel was only used once in the entire movie and only in the end credits. It is never uttered anywhere by the characters in this whole movie.
Interesting.
One final question for you, Rick. What am I going to do with the rest of this Lucky Charms inspired Lucky Charms beer?
I think you're going to find a garbage disposal and get rid of it.
I think you're right. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Please come back for the one show where everybody's name is Rick and everybody rules the world.
Thanks so much, everyone.